Hello, and welcome to Leadership is a Philosophy, Not a Checklist, book discussion number 20, Sacred Hoops by Phil Jackson. Now, first of all, I'm sorry I've been away for a little bit. I've actually been doing a bunch of stuff in my life. I'm actually starting a business, focused all on this, and so I've had other things happening. So it's been a little while since I put some content up. Things are going to change a little bit. I'm going to do a video in about 3 weeks that'll describe all that. But this is still, I'm still going to do these sorts of things. Anyway, why Sacred Hoops? Well, it's been something I've been thinking about for decades when it comes to the sports world, right? So we talk about who's a leader. Well, a lot of times we've said that a leader is somebody who, gets the team to do stuff, yep. But we ascribe that name to an athlete, but then you take that athlete out of their team and put them on another team and they don't do so well. Or they do worse. Or that person leaves the team and goes to try some other enterprise where they're in charge and it doesn't work. So Phil Jackson is the sort of person over our lives, right? For those of you that are older, that was successful as a player. Then he was successful as a coach 2 different times with 2 different teams. And then even then, some of the team members were different in his levels of success. So his first series of championships with the Bulls, and then the second series of championships, different team, different all sorts of stuff. Obviously, Michael Jordan was there. But then he went and had success in LA. And so that, to me, that got my antenna upward, something I've been thinking about forever. Now that I've done this, I go, oh, well, Phil Jackson has to be one of those guys. So I was watching The Last Dance, a couple months ago, and went, yep, this is the thing. So I bought the book Sacred Hoops and went through it, and everything that we talk about in this series is in the book. Right? So a lot of the examples that I'm going to be doing going forward are not going to be, here's how terrible things are. It's, here's an example of what good is. And as always, I've not been contacted. If anybody can get in contact with Phil Jackson, I would love to interview him and talk to him about this stuff. But, he's up here and I'm nobody. So we're just going to go through it and give you some of the wisdom from the book. And you'll notice a bunch of recurring themes. So here we go. All right. As always, we start off with the archetypal leadership model. And remember, any people out there that know somebody that's a PhD candidate that wants to go research something, the one thing that is my assumption, and I still have no research to back it up, is the personality. So openness to experience, high in positive emotion, high intellect, assertiveness, and industrious. Okay, so I think that if we go into an organization, and here's the way you do your research, right? You got to find a couple people that are leaders, not in charge. Go into an organization, find the people that they would voluntarily follow in that organization, and then give them the big 5. And that's how you analyze the leadership sample, not just the people in charge. Anyway, the talent, as we talk about all the time. So you have to have the personality. The talent is the ability to attune competence in environmental hierarchies in pursuit of a goal. Nothing new here. If this is your first video, you've got some homework to do. There's a bunch of other videos to watch. And then the characteristics, the 4 essential characteristics, right? So humility, integrity, empathy, and vigilance. And it's not one is more important than the other. It's all 4 all the time. There may be a time when you have to be extra humble, but you have to have integrity. You have to be paying attention. You have to have empathy while you're having that humility. There may be a thing where the only thing on the table is your integrity, but you have to do it with humility. You have to have empathy. So it's all the time. That's the logo, right? That's the snake, the Ouroboros with all of those characteristics in it. That's the snake of chaos. And then the way that you address it is with these things and character. And then our 4 examples. So if you go throughout history, the Tao Te Ching has from 3,000 or from 2,700 years ago has the 4 types of leaders. Now, I need some help. If anybody out there knows somebody that's a really good with Chinese, I would love to know what character was used for leader, because I wonder if it means something else. We just have translated it to leader. And then there's the Army Field Manual. That's the United States Army female field manual from 1987. And then there's a German general called von Moltke, who had his 4 leadership types. And then there's the archetypal model. So the reason for this, and I explain it every time because it's got to sink in. So these 4 characteristics, or these 4 leader types, it's the same. With all 3 of these examples, we're not actually necessarily sure who wrote them. Even though they say that Lao Tzu wrote the Tao Te Ching, you can't really find where General Moltke wrote this stuff, but everybody attributes it to him. So you've got the 4 leader types. So there's barely known, loved and praised, feared and despised. And then the Army Field Manual from 87 says respected and trusted, tolerated, feared and despised. Interesting. And the German general said lazy and smart, lazy and energetic, lazy and dumb and energetic. So then what those really are, if you look at those, these are the 4 types. So good character plus the talent is a leader. Good character, no talent is just a person in charge. Bad character plus the talent is a leader. They can just lead you badly, or you can have really terrible outcomes. And then the one that's despised, the person is just a person in charge, bad character, no talent. So bad character, no talent. So that's our model. Now you can take this and apply it to people in your life, right? Who's your boss anyway? Onto the book. Okay, so comments on this book. This is the sort of book that leaders should write. This is very similar to General Grant's book. Stories of leadership, situations, and solutions. None of this, oh, I'm amazing. No, here's my amazing system. Here's this amazing thing. If you're interested in basketball at all, then go read. He does have a system, but the system is very simple, and then not infinite, but 48 different applications of it. So, but that's not his leadership style. That's just the way to play the game. Talks about success, but always talks about things that he did wrong. He talks about a couple of the players that he feels like he was too harsh on, or he did too much, or maybe should have done something a little different. Right? And that's because when you're leading, it's an individual thing. You have to find out where the person is and bring them to the goal. Really didn't never say, oh, I'm an amazing leader. I'm an amazing person. It's just, here's what I was doing. Well, that's the thing. People that are genuine leaders, because they have the talent, it's like breathing. It's like writing a book about breathing. How do you breathe exactly? Tell me everything that your body is doing and your brain is doing when you breathe. So consistently demonstrates integrity, right? It's similar. It's a very similar book. Sets the record straight a couple times. Says, hey, here's what was written. Here's what really happened. And of course, if you got to think about this book came out in 95. So the internet came out or started to become a big thing maybe 94. So I sort of was oblivious to whatever some of the stuff he was talking about. And I was alive then. And I was watching the team. Don't even remember these stories, And so once again, had the leadership talent, had success as an individual, but then once he got in charge of an organization, big deal. All right, so some of the leadership stories. Never talks about this burning desire to be a coach in the book, but he ends up being in charge. So he had somebody that got him under his wing and sort of pulled him along and said, hey, I want you to start doing this. And then this is the thing that I love about the book, is he talks about how he coached every player. So the goal, win the game, the goal was always the same. But the way that he dealt with each player was different. And, I don't want to name drop, I'm going to read the book. But, You can see it a little bit in the documentary The Last Dance that they did on Netflix. But he talks about, oh, there's this one guy, a little hard-headed, had to go at it with him, and maybe I was a little too harsh. Another guy, hey, nobody could get through to him. I pulled him in. We tried this thing, and it worked. So that's the way leadership is, right? Anytime you hear somebody say, oh, I can't lead Gen X, I can't lead millennials, I can't lead Gen Z, well, then you're not a leader. I mean, I'm sorry to say it. You're just not. Because a leader goes to the person, talks to the person, finds out what makes the person tick, and then negotiates with them to get them to accomplish the needs of the organization. Right? I wanted to stand up and say that once in this big meeting, but I figured I'd get stoned, thrown out, and run out on a rail because these people were, I can't understand this younger generation. Well, then you're not a leader. You're not. You're just in charge, right? So I want to read a little thing because to me it was just it's just something that captured, I mean, it's a great paragraph that sort of captures his whole thing, right? So this is, I believe, at the end of the first 3 championships with the Bulls. And Michael Jordan retired, because he wanted to take a break and go play baseball, whatever, came back. Anyway, he says, losing Michael presented a major challenge for me, though not an entirely unwelcome one. What's exciting about coaching is the building process, not the ongoing maintenance work required once your team has achieved success. During Michael's final season, the Bulls ran pretty much on automatic. The biggest problem I faced was keeping the players from getting bored and losing their edge. Now I would get a chance to reshape the team and see if our approach to the game would work without the world's greatest player on the roster. Now, think about that for a minute. So here they are, steamrolling people, winning just like crazy, and in his eyes, they were running on automatic. What have I said many times about what leadership is? That is your goal. But then it's time to stop. Or something's got to change. Now, Michael retiring, great, because now he's got to get back in and do everything because one of the best players in the league is not there anymore. But, I always have said, once you've had that happen, if Michael didn't retire, then he should have left. Because you've got, you're now just maintaining stuff. So maybe somebody else needs to come in and see if they can make them even better. Who knows? But I just love that. I just love that paragraph, right? It's like, hey, getting things together is great, but when everything's working fine. Now, he did a lot of work in the previous 2 seasons and his whole life to get to where he could get the team to that level. So it's great. It's just great. The whole book, it's amazing. Talks a lot about his meditative processes, all this. It's amazing. It's just an amazing book. My favorite, vigilance, right? It's better to be aware than smart. It's one of the chapter titles. I'm sorry. I lost my place. Anyway, one of the chapter titles is it's better to be aware than smart. Well, that's vigilance, right? So there you go. And he goes through the whole process. He goes through the whole thing. He's never running around taking credit for stuff. He always talks about understanding where the players are. It's just excellent. But on the whole, this is the sort of rare glimpse you get into what an actual leader is doing. It seems super easy, but if you know the story, which we all know, all these different basketball teams and all these different egos and all these different players, and he's able to go in there and get all those people to win a whole bunch of championships. Unbelievable, right? But if you read it, it's like, yeah, I was having some coffee and thought maybe we should win. It's just great. It's great. I really love it. All right, that's pretty much it. I know it doesn't sound like it's anything revolutionary, but it's the sort of book that you should read if you want to see what leadership really is. There's not a system in there. There's not a process in there. There's humility, there's integrity, there's empathy, there's vigilance, and then there's meeting each person where they are and taking them to the goal. So he's got the talent, got the character. And like I said, if anybody out there knows Phil Jackson or knows a way to get a hold of him, I would love to talk to him. Of course, what's he got to do with some dude with a dinky YouTube channel? So here's Sacred Hoops. There's a revised edition. This is the one that I got. There's a revised edition that's got another publishing date, but you can look it up. The cover will be different, whatever. And again, I'm not sponsored by any of these people. Anyway, like I said, a little bit shorter video because we've sort of got everything distilled down. If you have questions, there's all the answers to your questions are in previous videos on this channel. Alrighty, I hope you have a great day, and thank you so much for your attention.